Couple weeks back, I saw this picture on Twitter and I thought it warranted a full video because it very accurately describes one of the biggest pathologies I've had for a very long time in building stuff. And I think the biggest problem I've had over the last year and a half, I never let any of my projects or my work kind of compound and build on top of itself. I have this weird thing that I've done for a long time where I'll be working on something, I'll have some project or idea, I'll let it get about 30 or 40 commits deep, and then I just kind of scrap it because I don't like some piece of it or I learn some new thing and I end up just kind of wanting to get rid of it. And this picture really just kind of perfectly crystallized a lot of the things that I have struggled with, and something that we've changed recently with my biggest project and my main thing right now, which is Insider Viz, is we have really kind of taken this mentality to heart, especially I have, in the build out of the site, where instead of just kind of working on different pieces and just trying to do the whole thing in like a weekend and then just kind of moving off of it, we would do this thing for the longest time, where basically what would end up happening is we would be working on it, we would do a bunch of stuff, and we'd have these really heavy burst periods where like in a week we would get tons and tons and tons of stuff done, and then we would kind of just stop and not let it keep going and keep expanding on itself. Versus what we're doing now is we've laid sort of a foundation and we're really trying to build the site on top of this, and the results we're getting out of it are insane. The whole point of this video is I want to talk about this from a development standpoint and why I think it is incredibly important that you stop throwing away your work. So I think one of the first places I want to start with this is going to be the metaphorical graveyard of side projects. I am very, very guilty of this. Over the course of the last 2 or so years, I have gone through and built tons of little things, or at least started little things, and then never kind of let them get very far. Because something I've had a huge problem with side projects and these little things is a sort of mentality thing where I'll be working on something and I'll get going, I'll get it kind of working, and then we've all been through the thing where you look at some idea or project, you think about it, you kind of write down a few ideas, you're like, oh, this is a really cool idea, I want to build this, I want to do this, and then you are like, yeah, this is really simple, I can build this in a weekend. And hypothetically, I think that's usually true, especially once you like really master a technology. Like I do think I could probably produce a decent amount of applications in a weekend with this Kit stack that I've really locked into. That's something that's really helped me a lot, is I've gone from constantly screwing around with a million different technologies, which I still am, and there are some things that I want to try out this year. But the biggest thing that I've really done is just kind of fully honed in on Kit, on Supabase, and I mean, really, those are the two core pieces. There's a lot of little helper things in there, like I like the Zod form data library a lot. I like Drizzle a lot. I think Drizzle is by far and away the best ORM right now. But having a very core set of technologies where I know how to use these things super deeply, I can build very quickly with these, but anything you end up building is going to inevitably end up being more difficult and more complicated than you think. This is, I think, actually a very good example of this. Back in February, I was screwing around. This was with Nuxt, so like obviously it didn't end up going as far because I'm not really a Nuxt guy. I did want to screw around with it for a couple of videos, so I ended up starting this and making some stuff here. But you can see this is an 11 commit repo. I did some stuff on this for about 2 days, and then I kind of just let it die. Because the mentality that I had for a long time is not that it is good to just make incremental progress and keep building on something and let it develop over the course of a long period of time, but that it had to be done in like 1 or 2 days at most. And really, actually, honestly, I think it was like 1 day at most. And if I ever had to take something and let it go longer than that, I just wouldn't do it. I, for some reason, just kind of had the feeling where like, yeah, this won't work, and then I would just kind of abandon it and move on. And there are a lot of projects I have that are kind of in this sort of graveyard, and the most egregious one in here, and the one that I think suffered by far and away the most, was definitely my biggest project, which is Insider Viz. I've talked about this previously in videos, but I have written a lot of the core pieces of this site and all the functionality we have in here dozens of times. The backend crawler to actually fetch data from the SEC, I think I have written that like a dozen times at least, and the front end, I think we've done it at least 3 times. The very first time we did it was in a Nuxt app, which we got pretty far on, but this was when Nuxt was like in the Nuxt 2 migrating to Nuxt 3 range. We weren't super experienced at this point, so my mental model of client server and how full stack JS really works was not super good, so we made a lot of mistakes in there. And we were having a lot of issues where just like weird internal framework issues were happening because, like I said, this was when Nux 3 was really unstable and brand new. From what I've heard, the new Nux, the fully shipped Nux 3 in its current state is fantastic. I've done some brief testing with it. I think it's fantastic. I'm not here to slander Nux by any stretch of the imagination, but back then it did kind of suck, so that one did have to get axed. And the one that we really settled on and spent a lot of time with was the Next.js app. But this, admittedly, a lot of the reasons why this couldn't go super far and we had a lot of problems with it was because it was very poorly architected. I've made a lot of videos about this in the past, and one of the biggest things that for me technically that I kind of learned last year was I was very into this sort of having like a separate Golang backend for all of the reasons that you'll hear on Reddit or Twitter or whatever for why it's better, which I do get. There are a lot of huge benefits for it, but it made the maintainability and like scaling up not from a user standpoint but from a development standpoint of this application extremely painful. So we kind of got to a point where maintaining and growing this was just infeasible. So it kind of eventually just ended up falling apart. We really couldn't do too much with it, and it kind of just stagnated for a long time. But that's really kind of changed with the newest version of the site, which you can see here. We have like a team set up for GitHub, but it's not a public repo and we're not paying for teams. So I can't show you the full insights on this because we don't even have them. But you can kind of see here with what we've been working on, the work on this has been way more consistent because really the biggest change we've had is this sort of mentality that it's okay for this to be built up and grown over a longer period of time and really just kind of let the work compound on itself. And really, we've kind of just been living this visualization. And I know this is remedial. I know for anyone who's been doing this for a long time, this is very obvious. And it should have been obvious to us. I'm sure I could have told you this 2 years ago, but I have this weird thing where, and this has been happening a lot recently, where these sort of ideas that I've known and had for a very long time, we've finally just actually started understanding and internalizing them and actually executing on them. And it has made life so much better. We have been consistently and constantly committing to, contributing to, and building upon this foundation. If you go into like the commits on the dev branch, you can see we are very consistently building and adding more and more features on top of this, and it's creating a much better product because we have this good foundation. We just keep laying more and more bricks, and we're actually ending up with a bigger, better product because I think really the whole thesis of this is that if you want to build anything worthwhile and you want to build anything good, it's just going to take time. It's going to take time for you to go through and build out these pages. I can give you an example here of one of the features that we're working on right now is like this new email notification system where the core value prop that we really have with this site is that we make it quicker and easier to get core insights and interesting data out of insider trading data. So like taking the enormous unwieldy data set that is Form 4s and wiping out all of the noise and just delivering the core useful pieces to you in the site and also in your inbox, because that's something we're working on right now. So I've been building out this feature for the actual newsletter sending. And this just takes a while. It's just taken me a few days to go through and make the UI for this and then create the backend routes to have it so that, you can select these and then that will set up the correct preferences within their email list. And then the email list is also attached to the profile. These things are complicated and they take time. And that's really kind of just what I wanted to talk about in this video is that as remedial and simple as it may sound, it really is true that hard, useful, good things do just take time. And you will see a lot more benefits in your side projects and whatever you want to build if you just kind of let them go. It is the biggest mental barrier you really have to get over is like right now it's way easier and feels really good to work on this because we have this foundation and it's like I'm just building on top of this, but we have all these other pages, we have all this other stuff done, we already have users, we're shipping it out to users. When we send something out to an email list, people actually see it and read it. All these things make it way easier to keep working on something. But in the early stages, when you just have a few pages and when you just have some basic stuff on the screen, when you just get that one feature working, just keep making features and keep adding more stuff, and eventually it will just kind of all come together and work. You can't get everything done perfectly instantly, but once you do kind of eventually get it, it feels really good. And I cannot tell you how nice it feels to actually wake up and see Stripe notifications and be growing the email list and be growing the user base and actually have a product that kind of works and a project that I am extremely proud of. I think we've done an extremely good job on this and very excited to see where this ends up going and what we can end up building on top of this foundation. So I know this was just kind of a very random, long-winded rant, but hopefully this is helpful for especially those of you who are newer and younger who have not gone through this and not really just experienced this in the real world where like It's not like school. You really do have to just kind of let something go and really spend a bunch of time on it. You can't do the whole thing in an afternoon, but when you do let it grow, it's pretty great. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon.